Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's webinar brought to you by Oklahoma City Minority Enterprise Development Week 2021. Thank you all for joining this incredible collaborative initiative where we highlight, strengthen, and celebrate our local minority enterprise ecosystem here in Oklahoma City. It's been an incredible week. But we have not wrapped things up. So again, please stay tuned and engage by following us on social media at OKC MED 2021, as well as visit our website so you can register and review this week's activities, okcmed.biz. I am your host, Mariana Adams, and I'm proud to serve as the Executive Director of Progress OKC, which is a local community development corporation. We have a wide variety of programs, as well as partners, some of which are on today's webinar. You can visit our website, progressokc.org, for our microloan, zero interest, zero fees program in partnership with Kiva, as well as our technical assistance partnership with JP Morgan Chase. But enough about me. We are here to talk about small business recovery and preparation when it comes to disasters, both natural and economic disasters. This past year plus has been challenging, especially for our small businesses. And we have seen the disproportionate impact on minority-owned businesses. So how do we best position you to thrive? Earlier this week, we had an award ceremony, and one of our keynotes said, hey, obstacles are inevitable, but preparation is a choice. And so I'm so excited by the content that is going to be presented today. We have the American Red Cross, we have the SBA, the Oklahoma City Black Chamber, and the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Oklahoma City office. And with that, I'm actually going to hand it off to the director of the Oklahoma City office for the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Steve. Welcome, Steve, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Mariana. It's great being part of this week, focusing on how do we build and strengthen minority enterprise in Oklahoma City. And as you mentioned, this week has really been focused on how do we expand those businesses and strengthen them. I think a key part of that is being resilient in the face of obstacles, particularly natural disasters. And that is one of those things that we often put aside and push back. We think it's not going to happen to us. And we kind of don't want to deal with it until it's almost too late. Today, we're going to talk about a number of ways to plan and prepare for disasters. I'm going to share my screen just real quick here. And okay, can we see that? All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about disasters. And I say one of the things is that disasters are going to happen, and we have to be ready for those. And as folks in the field will often hear, as this person from FEMA said, they always hear that people say, I never thought it could happen here or to me. However, in Oklahoma, we know that is different. Oklahoma is in the center of the country and also right in the center of all types of disasters. Everything from tornadoes, droughts, lightning that can affect our business continuity, wildfires, earthquakes. Each of those provide particular risks and require particular types of preparation. But there is a way of looking at all of them and putting a plan in place that will allow you to continue on in your business and bounce back quickly. And Oklahoma is number 3 in the nation for the most federally declared disasters. And the only 2 states ahead of us is California and Texas, which has dramatically larger sizes and number of population. So you can see that we are disproportionately hit. We have a great lineup of presenters today to discuss this. We'll start off with Joanne Davis from the Oklahoma City Black Chamber to discuss just the need for this and why it is something we need to tend to as a small business. Mary Jane Kaufman, the program manager for the American Red Cross on disaster preparedness, is going to talk about how do we get prepared before it hits. John Ville, district director for the USDA, will talk about what happens afterwards, what kind of programs are in place, some of the programs in place to support your small business. In particular, what do you need to bring to the table to avail yourself of those programs? And then I'll come back at the very end and provide one resource that'll help you get started with a very practical approach as you move forward with this. So with that, I would like to turn it over now to Joanne to give us her perspective.
Okay, good afternoon, and I am again Joanne Davis with the Oklahoma City Black Chamber of Commerce. And we've all known and seen that the pandemic really affected our small businesses, and in some aspects it's hard to prepare for a pandemic. But there are other avenues that Steve has kind of mentioned that we do need to talk about, and I'm just going to bring out a few. If you have a brick and mortar place, one of the first things that you can do is to ensure that you are insured properly. That's the very first thing. And every year you should evaluate your insurance plan, meet with your insurance agent to ensure that you're covered. All sorts of other things that you can look at. When you buy new equipment, ensure you might have a warranty that you need to pay for. There are little things that you can do to make sure that you're covered to the greatest extent possible. We all live in the state of Oklahoma, and we have endured and will continue to endure our share of storms. So it's important that you review your insurance policies on a yearly basis. The other thing that you should do is, if you do have a brick and mortar, look at your lease agreement. Understand what you're responsible for in comparison to what the owner of the particular building, brick and mortar, is responsible for. Those are a couple of things that you can do. And, make sure that you follow safety protocols and safety procedures, not only for your customers, but for your employees, to ensure that they're maintained their safety. So those are a few things that all small businesses should take in hand in doing to cover themselves for disasters as much as you possibly can do. Look at all of your policies and procedures, look at all of your insurance coverage, and just make sure you're following safety protocols to enhance your business and make sure you're safe, as well as your employees and your customers. And then with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Joanne. And from that, let's go on to Mary Jane to talk about some of the programs there.
Thank you, Steve. And you're hitting the nail on the head, Joanne, with those recommendations. It's just so important to think about your brick and mortar piece, but also even those valuable things like data and your supply chains and that kind of thing. I want to share a little bit about some programs with Red Cross that we might be able to offer. And first, say a huge thank you. It's so important. I just value so much being able to share this and to be in partnership, because our small businesses are critical to our communities recovery when we do have disasters. And so really do appreciate this opportunity. So let me see if I can get this up on the board. And can y'all see it all right?
Yes, looks good.
Perfect. So just want to share a little bit about Red Cross first. Our focus really is on alleviating human suffering, and we do that in a variety of ways, but it's all really dependent upon our volunteers who help us do this, as well as the generosity of those who support us. We actually have 5 distinct lines of service, and I always like to share that because a lot of times folks don't realize all that we do. Many of you may be familiar with our work in disaster because we are in Oklahoma and are privileged to get to serve and help take care of folks when those things happen here. We also have our biomedical line of service, which is our blood drives. We're one of the largest collectors of blood across the country, and including here in the Metro Oklahoma City area. and is really, again, tied to how we're helping people be prepared ahead of emergencies in order to take care of them in those emergencies. Similarly, our training services, so that includes trainings like CPR, first aid. We actually have babysitter boot camp where we help teach kids how to take care of other kids, those kinds of things. We also are a part of an international network with our international Red Cross and Red Crescent societies around the world. And what that means is that sometimes even right here in Oklahoma, we're connecting people with their families in other parts of the world, helping support different situations, whether it's refugee situations, ways that people get separated, supporting newcomers to Oklahoma and learning how to deal with disasters and the things that we face here. And then, of course, we were born on the battlefield, so our service to armed forces is really critical. And we do a lot to help both active and retired military. And all of these things are ways that we are always here to support you and your businesses. And so if there's something that you think would be a good connection for you, let us know. A big part of what we do in disaster cycle services is really try to work with people, businesses, organizations about how they can be prepared long before disaster happens. And we have a variety of programs that we do that with. We have ones that are targeted to help children learn how to be better prepared. We do a lot of trainings for individuals, so it could be lunch and learns for your employees. It can be presentations at churches, schools, that kind of thing. And I'm going to focus on one in particular that I'm hoping that some of you might find useful and take advantage of. Any of these programs are available, and if you have anyone who's interested, please do not hesitate to reach out. But let me share a little bit more about what we call Ready Rating. And it is designed in particular for organizations that might not otherwise have, huge developed emergency preparedness and planning departments and that kind of thing. So we see a lot of churches take advantage of this, small businesses, nonprofits, schools, that kind of thing. And it's a free program. So I want to share a little bit more detail about it. It's easy to find. We're at readyrating.org, and it really is designed to help you as a small business owner, as someone who may have some plans in place or may not have ever even kind of looked at what your planning might be in case of a disaster. It's so important. You've heard all of our folks before talk about why it's important. We are seeing increasing the effects of disaster. Many of you may have had some effects today, whether the power is out or windows are broken or roofing's missing, and that can impact you getting back to business, having your folks able to work, having your ability to reach your customers, your suppliers, and that kind of thing. We're continuing to see an increase in those times that do affect us. And what we're also seeing is that a lot of organizations are have so much to do and to focus on in ensuring that their businesses are thriving, that sometimes this piece is one of those, oh, I'm going to get to it. We see this a lot even with our free smoke alarm program. Well, I'll get to it. I know it's important, but it's really critical, and we see it in the numbers. If we do have a larger scale disaster, or if we have, it may be the one that just hits you. It doesn't have to hit a lot of folks, but if you have a fire or something like that, nearly 40% of businesses don't actually succeed. We've seen that or don't actually survive that. We've seen that even with the pandemic and the situations that are affected. But many organizations don't have plans in place. And so this is why we put together, took our scientific advisors board and said, we really think there's a niche here that we can help support organizations be prepared. And that's where we came up with Ready Rating. It is free. It is online. It's very it's got the basics there, but it's very easy to tailor to what your situation is and what your needs and gaps might be in being prepared. And there's lots of tools in there. It's designed where you basically sign up, do an assessment and see where you are, and then start accessing some of the tools to develop your plans. It's based on if there are OSHA requirements that you need to meet, it's based on those standards. And it is something that is not just a one-time deal. You do it, you assess again later to see if the things that you put in place have helped. We have regular tools that come out to support. And it's really about measuring that current preparedness level. Am I ready for some kind of crisis to happen? And what kinds of things can we put in place to be more prepared? I, again, like that you can tailor it to your business, and then you can track and look as time moves forward. And this is our goal, is to make being prepared as simple, cost-effective, and achievable for folks who have a whole lot more on their plate, but who are so critical to helping our communities be resilient, to helping them thrive, both in good times and in particular in disasters. And we have all sorts of types of organizations that have joined as Ready Rating members. You'll see some of the examples here. And we've had really good feedback on how the program has helped, that it's been easy to use, that it gives, helps provide that focus and provide tools for not just the owners, but their employees' families to be more prepared. And again, it's very easy. You just go to readyrating.org. There's a membership agreement to accept, which is basically just allowing access to the online tool. And then the first thing you do is get on there and do an assessment. And there are two types of assessments. There's one that is focused, very short, focused on organizations that haven't really ever had a plan. So it really gets that starting level, what do I need to do? And then there's another one that if you've got a plan in place and really want to assess it and kind of take it from there, that you can do. And once you've done that, it focuses on these 5 places. So a big piece of being prepared is you really got those get those commitments from anybody who's going to be involved in that process. And so participation is really key. We always do this too with you'll see there's part of the membership agreement is, do we have the buy-in from our leadership of whatever organization this is that is really saying, yes, I support this and it's important to our organization. Then there's an assessment of your emergency planning, an assessment of your facility and equipment, any of those tools that you may use for your business. Then an assessment of your training and exercises. Do you have in place, even some of the basic drills that you need to have in place to be prepared ahead of time? And then the other one that is important and comes out when we talk about the resiliency of the community, there's a lot of ways that being tools that can be there for your extended community that can help your business succeed and survive, but also where you could be a part of helping the entire community. And it sounds like a lot of the work that's done through Progress, and of course the Chamber, is really devoted to how are we helping this particular community not just survive, but thrive. Once you've done the assessment, you get a customized next steps report. We give a little bit of an example of what that looks like, kind of gives some of those ideas of what to do next. And then once you've gotten through that, you have access to our resource center. It has all sorts of videos, tip sheets, tie-ins to different resources, all sorts of things that can help you with continuing to develop your readiness. One of the things I think is really cool is we've got a lot of experts that you can take advantage of that have put those videos on and are targeted to particular things. So again, it's about what is your gap? What's the thing that you need to strengthen for your business? And then we have templates. So you can actually create your emergency action plan or tweak the one that you have in place that can help you be successful in this endeavor. There's a standard one that you basically can just go and do, or we have one that's more customizable to help you with ensuring that it really fits your business and what you do. And this is just an example. It's pretty easy to navigate, to get in there and work through. And again, you can customize it. You can change it to match what's yours. And once you get in there and are a member, you actually have a dashboard where you can see have we made progress? What are we doing? How do we access? And you actually show up as a member then and get a ready rating based on the number of the steps that you've taken. So just joining, you end up with a star, and moving through the process, you increase that, showing others, that you're a business that takes this seriously. So there's an example of the dashboard. Another thing that's pretty cool is that you can also, if you have, multiple facilities or multiple lines of service within your business, you can tailor it for that. And then we do regular communications with you about what's going on, updates on significant additional things that can assist, that kind of thing. And so our goal, again, is to make it simple and effective and achievable for your business to be as ready as possible. And we'd really love for anyone, if you've got additional questions, if you just want to go in and join, you can do it today. And just gives you that opportunity to see where you are at this moment, assess that, and increase your preparedness in order to be as successful as recovering as you can if something happens. So again, very easy to get going. Are there any questions at this point?
Hey, Jane.
Hey, this is Joanne. I have a question.
Certainly.
By going through this program, which is absolutely phenomenal, have you all tied into insurance companies to get them to offer a discounted rate if particularly small businesses participate in this program?
Right now, I'm not aware of any that are offering that. I know that for some, that's required to have a plan even to be meeting guidelines. And then I have heard of some who've had some success in using it as something to show that preparedness. I'd have to investigate whether we have any that are actually giving a discount or anything, Joanne.
Okay, thank you. But that's something that, might push more people to participate in this program if they knew that it might in turn reciprocally give them the benefit of having a reduction in some insurance costs.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if somebody wants more in depth, wants additional presentation for their teams and that kind of thing, we're happy to do that and can investigate even and help communicate on some of what the benefits are of having the program.
All right, Jane, I think that ties into one question we had from an audience member. As a person goes through this process, it's very much based online and you step through it yourself. But if there are questions, is there a real person to talk to?
Yes, so there's a couple of different things. When you, that resource area is where you can get not only those recorded things, but you can also communicate with members of our team. And then that's the good thing about Red Cross. We're local in your community, so you can always reach out to us right here in Oklahoma City. If you've got questions, we may be able to connect you with someone who has the expertise around it, or it may be something that we can help you with.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And it's such a great program, so in depth. And one of the things I really like is that you can put your toe in the water and then continue to build out your plan. And I think, as we know, in terms of preparation, there's always more we can do. We can keep going further and further in to become more prepared. Now that we turn over to John to talk about the what happens after the disaster strikes.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Steve. It's very I'm very excited to be here this morning and to talk about SBA. Most people think of SBA, Small Business Administration. They think of small business loans and those other types of programs that we have. Very few people realize that we are also on the forefront of preparing recovery assistance from a disaster. And as Steve said earlier, when you think about a disaster, it's not if it's going to happen, it's what am I doing when it happens. And so I want to talk about our programs and how we assist with the recovery efforts for small business owners. Okay. So every year we provide billions of dollars in low interest, long-term disaster loans to help small business owners, homeowners, and renters recover from declared disasters. I want to touch on a couple of points here. While we're talking about small businesses, we also provide assistance to homeowners and also renters to recover from physical disasters. Our role is we are a primary source of funding to assist businesses and homeowners in recovery. And the key thing with us is that we offer low interest federal loans to businesses. A lot of people know of our programs because of our assistance in COVID recovery, but I want to talk about a little bit more than that. Our loan programs are available for physical damages from a declared disaster for non-farm businesses, homeowners, renters, and also private nonprofit organizations. What I want to cover here today is I want to talk about the different types of disaster loans: home disaster loans, business physical disaster loans, and economic injury disaster loans. I also want to just cover some general information about our interest rates and also some restrictions on eligibility. And finally, I want to touch on lessons learned or some issues that people have had in qualifying for our assistance. First of all, when we talk about a home disaster loan, who's eligible? Homeowners and renters, as I said earlier. These loans cover physical damages to real estate, personal properties, to include automobiles. We can repair or replace a primary residence up to $200,000 and repair or replace personal property up to $40,000. Roll on to our business physical disaster loans. This is if your business is damaged because of a disaster. And think of what we have in Oklahoma. We have tornadoes, we have flooding, we've had earthquakes, we've had a little of everything happen here. And so our loans actually roll in to help cover damages caused from these types of situations. And this includes your real estate, inventory, supplies, machinery, anything that a business has, we take care of. Businesses of any size are eligible for our assistance, and the maximum loan amount is $2 million. A lot of people have heard about our economic injury disaster loan, but this is to assist in replacing working capital that a business loses because of a disaster. You have to close your doors because of a tornado and you lost money. Well, we try to help you recover that working capital with a loan so you can take care of your obligations that's still ongoing. And that maximum loan amount is also $2 million. This is just a slide that just basically gives a complete summary of the various programs and the maximum amounts. And I'm willing to share this if anyone needs it. Just let us know by and send an email address and I can share the slide with anyone who needs it. Now let's talk about some things about eligibility requirements. We definitely look at credit history. There's no specific credit score, but they need to have a credit history that we review in order to determine if the loan can be made. The applicant must also show the ability to repay the loan. Will the business recover? Can you repay that loan? If you have collateral, we do want collateral for any loans over $25,000. However, if you don't have collateral, that's not a reason to deny the loan. We just take the maximum collateral that's available. Why SBA? Why SBA Disaster Loan Program? Two major good reasons. First of all, low interest rates. And secondly, the terms can go up to 30 years for repayment. And in some cases, we can also assist you in refinancing prior debts so that as you recover from a disaster, you don't have major debts on top on your shoulders that you're trying to take care of. Again, here's a summary of the interest rates. If you don't have credit anywhere for your home loan, it can be 1.938. For businesses, it's 4%. And you can see the other rates. If you do have credit available elsewhere, then the interest rates are a little bit higher because primarily we're trying to help those people who really don't have any other place to go but to us for assistance. Other restrictions. Any insurance proceeds you get must be applied to the damage, and we will reduce the loan accordingly. And so basically, we want you to maximize your insurance first and then take advantage of SBA loans. Now, our loan comes in even beforehand, even before you get your insurance settlement, so you can in fact recover much quicker. Some ineligible property, of course, secondary homes, pleasure boats, airplanes are not covered. Some antiques and collections are only eligible to their functional value and not for that sentimental value that you put on it. And also when you're looking at trying to replace your landscapes, swimming pools, and those types of things, the amount that you get is very limited. If you've had a loan with us before and you didn't pay it, didn't meet with the terms, you would not be eligible for another SBA loan. If you have property in a flood zone and you didn't maintain flood insurance, you probably will not be eligible for an SBA loan. And again, like I said, we do look at what insurance you have when we compute the loan. And again, we take all those factors into place as shown on this slide when making an actual loan for you to recover your property. This is a slide I do want to spend some time on. Lessons learned. Going through this COVID, we've had a lot of working with our economic injury disaster loan program. And a lot of businesses did not receive, let's say, maximum amount, or didn't receive anything because of various issues. And one of the first issues, of course, is inadequate record keeping. I'm operating a cash business. I kept no records to show that I even have a viable business. And that made a business not qualified for a loan. Businesses failing to maintain profit and loss statements or balance sheets. You can't show existence of a business. That can be an issue. When we file our taxes, we try to maximize our return on taxes, thus reducing the amount of net income that we have. And our loan programs are based upon net income. So if you show a business with zero net income, that has a severe impact on your ability to get a loan from SBA. And one of the final major issues is banking relationships. Commingling your business account with your personal account, or not having the business account, or even when we may make deposits in some cases, those deposits are being returned by banks. So it's very critical that you have a very valid banking relationship if you want to take advantage of any SBA programs. All of these things, we've seen these as issues in the past, and I say that as you move forward, make sure you have those things taken care of with your business. Basically, 25% of businesses that face a disaster don't open after a major disaster. If you have and as we've talked about today, if you have a good up-to-date plan of action, then you can be prepared to recover from any disaster. Go to sba.gov, prepare, and we have more tips for you there. I went through these slides quite fast because I like to have time for questions. So please, if you have any questions, let me hear them. Thank you.
John, one question I have is, does an individual business owner work directly with the SBA, or do they work through their bank that then works with the SBA? What's that relationship like?
Well, the programs I'm talking about today, these are direct with SBA. These are SBA direct programs. Okay. We administer these through our disaster assistance department, and they work direct. You apply directly to SBA. The money comes directly from SBA.
And how does how do you get the word out about how to contact you? If a business gets hit by lightning, what do they need to do?
When a disaster is declared in the area, and there's two different types of disaster that can be declared. First of all, you can have a presidential disaster that's declared, and that's when FEMA comes in. And of course, you go to FEMA first, then you come to SBA. Also, in the case of a non-presidential disaster, our administrator can also declare a disaster in an area. And once that happens, we go maximum press release to make sure people know that we have declared a disaster, and we actually have teams come on the ground to actually work with applicants to apply for the loan programs. So we basically hit the media pretty strong to let people know that there's a disaster. And a person can always go to sba.gov/disaster and look at the current disasters that's open right now. As a matter of fact, I think we just declared one. Well, I know there's one for the ice storm we had back in October, and I'm pretty sure that with the damage we just had in this last week, I'm pretty sure that within the next couple of weeks, I'll see a disaster declaration made for that also.
And I would imagine that bankers are pretty well attuned to disasters, and they know when you declare one or not. So if I went to my banker, they would have a good sense whether that should come to you or not.
Yeah, my team, we send out copies of the notice to everyone we can think of, so they know that it's a declared disaster and people should be coming to us. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much. I think it's really very interesting to know, the range of support that you provide, and both on the physical side as well as the working capital through the emergency injury loan. I think that's very, very interesting. So much broader than many of us realize.
Exactly.
And
You know,
Steve, we have an additional question.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat. Are there any disaster or small business relief programs specifically designed for previously incarcerated individuals?
No, our disaster programs are not geared toward an individual status. It's geared toward what has happened in the community. What type of, like I say, physical disasters such as tornadoes, those types of things. But the economic thing for previously incarcerated people, no, we don't have that doesn't fit within our disaster program.
Thank you, John.
Now, our basic loan programs, eligibility has been expanded. At one point, previously incarcerated people could not get any type of SBA loans, but our programs have been expanded to cover that. However, that's based upon relationships with the bank and other qualifications they put out. But an SBA guarantee can still be applied in those situations.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
That's great to hear that expansion and that inclusion. That's so important. Well, we have heard a lot of different tips and ideas and resources to use as we get ready for disasters and get prepared for them, and as we work through them. Just to give a real quick recap of some high points, one is to gather your financial information, get it in one place. And so often we do have it scattered around different folders, different parts of the building. Some may be at the office, some may be at the house, but think about what are those key pieces that we need to have in one spot. Also, what is the inventory that we have? Inventory of the property and the contents, not just what you are selling if you're retail or what you're using for manufacturing, but what are those key pieces of equipment that you need to have to keep your business going? A key piece we've heard throughout this is the need to have that banking relationship. Know your banker. Meet with several of them, develop a relationship with one or so, and go back to them. Make sure that they know who you are and what your needs are, and so that they will be ready to work with you as a disaster happens, and you'll be able to work with them. As John said, they work with bankers. Bankers will know it's to their advantage to know what programs are out there that can support you as a small business borrower. As Joanne mentioned right off the bat, that idea of working with your insurance company is so critical. Knowing what your policies are, knowing what that deductible is that you will need to pay up front if a disaster happens is so important. And it gets very, very detailed and sometimes confusing when we look at what is covered by a disaster or not in particular. And then create an emergency fund that will be able to provide, that initial deductible plus some other running money to keep you going in the immediate aftermath of a disaster. It's a lot of points, but we can take those one by one. And we have developed a form, the Small Business Financial Form for businesses to help you organize that. And it is one initial step that you can take to be able to get ready to start engaging with the Red Cross's program, give you a foundation for that, give you a foundation to start having that conversation with the banker. And this is just a quick picture of, it's a 4-page form for a small business. It covers a number of areas: bank accounts, insurance, loans, your building info, some of your key contacts, your contacts for your employees, contacts for vendors, contacts for some of your key clients. With those 4 pages, it will help start to get you organized, keep that in a safe place. When disaster strikes, you can pull that out or use it in the first step of your preparations. You'll see the website is there. Now then, we have this tool, but we also have several other pieces as well. This is particularly for a small business, but as John mentioned, oftentimes small business owners may have their businesses and their personal information commingled a bit. It's best practice to separate those out. And it's also best practice to think about how would we as a family get prepared for a disaster. We have a similar worksheet to help you get your personal financial information together to weather that storm. And also, as John mentioned, they have SBA programs for renters, which I thought was great to hear. Mary Jane with the Red Cross has a lot of programs to support the preparations of individuals and families to get ready for disasters. So it's always good to think about both sides of that coin, both on the job, in the office, as well as at home. So with that, we'll hope that you found some new ideas, some new resources to take advantage of, and we would love to hear any questions now, as well as follow up in any way we can with your business and within your communities to become more prepared and resilient.
Thank you, Steve, John, and Mary Jane, as well as Joanne, for joining us today and addressing questions in the chat. One question that we had on Facebook, will materials, any company materials be available after this webinar?
I think we all have materials we could definitely provide. I think there's links in the website. So if the slides are able to be presented somehow, or
Yes. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh yeah, no, I was
Okay.
trying to see how I could drop that one link that we have, but I think if you go to kansascityfed.org and look at disaster preparedness, those forms I mentioned will pop up. And then if you review these slides, you'll be able to see all of our links as well.
Wonderful.
And you can also send me an email to Oklahoma_DO@SBA.gov and request any of the slides that I have.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. And then for our other presenters, if there are any materials that you would like us to distribute to attendees, I am happy to do so.
I can share a couple of flyers that would be helpful, and that way you can get in contact with us directly here in the metro area.
And if you
Wonderful.
all, this is Joanne, if you can send it to us at the OKCBlackChamber.org, and then we can also make it available to those who hit our website.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to all of our presenters today. A special thank you to Steve for assembling such an incredible group of local resources here in Oklahoma City and serving Oklahoma. Again, for our viewers, please stay engaged with Oklahoma City Minority Enterprise Development Week. This is a reoccurring annual event that takes place the second week of October, again, where we highlight, strengthen, and celebrate minority businesses, just looking to, again, create collaboration, education, and networking opportunities within our minority enterprise ecosystem here in Oklahoma City. This is being recorded and on Facebook. If you want to review or share, please feel free to do that by either going to our Facebook page or visiting our website, okcmed.biz, B-I-Z, at a later date. And with that, again, thank you to our panelists, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.